Hey Student Success, this is your video for week 4 spanning November 16th through the 22nd. So after this week you are officially halfway done with the course, which also means that we're getting closer to the end of the entire fall semester in general. So just a quick reminder, as I mentioned, I'm going to do this before every week's assignments. Your student services assignment. So please make sure you open up that document. It's going to go into depth with what workshops are available. And you can see starting this week, we've got November 16th. Got a few more, I think, down here. November 17th, November 18th. So you are kind of running out of options this last week. Like this current week is really it if you have not done this student services assignment yet. So hopefully, those of you who have not done it yet, you really get in there and get some of these done. You only have a few more options left depending on when you're watching this video. Hopefully you're watching it at the beginning of the week and you haven't missed a couple of these options. Okay, so please make sure you complete your student services assignment. You want to register for those and Dropbox it in there. All right, so we're going to skip down to week 4. So week 4 is actually covering 3 chapters. So it sounds like a lot, but there's only 3 assignments, one that kind of goes with each chapter, so it correlates with each of the concepts from these chapters. So if we go to the materials folder, you'll see that we are in chapters 5, 7, and 8. So in terms of chapter 5, it's going to talk about reading to learn, and just kind of some key takeaways is that, you should be approaching college level reading a little differently than maybe perhaps if you were just recently in high school. You should be approaching it a little differently. You should expect to do a lot of reading. The College Reading Learning Association did a study and found that up to around 85% of what we learn in college is done through reading, and so that's quite a bit of time dedicated to reading. So you want to make sure that you set aside time for that. And you want to also approach reading as an active process. So you want to spend some time preparing to read, which means, a couple minutes ahead of time, not just jumping right in, actually doing the reading and trying to get the main ideas out of the reading, and then spend time to review. So just real quickly, preparing to read means, setting a purpose, it can be something as simple as like previewing, like, all right, how many pages is this? What is this about? How is this organized? Do I know this already? Looking to see what kind of questions you're going to have to answer, or even posing questions for yourself as you read so that you have a goal to try to meet as you read. So kind of asking yourself all these preparation questions and just getting in the mindset to read, getting your tools ready. So that's what this section talks about. Then you actually go into the reading. So you want to, one of the things I always tell my students is don't take notes or highlight or annotate or anything like that while you read. Set that stuff aside, have it ready, but set it aside and chunk. Read just a section at a time. Then after you've read a section, go back and revisit and say, okay, this was actually the most important point, and highlight that or take notes on that. And if you're taking notes, always write down like the page number you got it from, and even on the top of the page, like what date you're reading. All of that can come in handy later on. So you go into the reading, and this is some more kind of highlighting, note-taking tips, skimming, looking at the questions you pose, trying to find those answers. What I would always recommend, again, kind of with the chunking, is let's say you have a 20-page chapter to read, read 5 pages at a time. That way, if by page 5 you're lost, you didn't go all the way to page 20 being lost. You stopped at page 5 and you can go back and re-look at what maybe you missed and use other sources to help you. But look at all these different things that kind of walks you through some of these suggestions here. Look at the key ideas after you go back and highlight and take notes. And then finally, after you're done, don't just close it up and walk away. Summarize it, put it into your own words, make sure that you understand what you just read, define any vocabulary, answer the questions you posed or the textbook posed, talk to someone else about it, compare your notes with maybe what you learned in class. So that is the gist of chapter 5. Now the actual chapter in your text, you hopefully will spend a little bit more time with. That was just kind of a preview. Chapter 5, maybe you can kind of look and see Maybe you struggle with vocabulary, or maybe you need to talk about special texts. So if you go to that section, it'll go over like the basically kind of content area text, so to speak. How can you really engage in these different kinds of text, these different kind of diagrams? So that's kind of an interesting section, especially if you're taking some of these classes right now. So as always, I kind of present the material in an overview, and then I highly encourage you to spend more time on those specific areas. So that is chapter 5. Now we're going to look at chapter 7. So chapter 7, this is about interacting in class with instructors and trying to be engaged. So what are some differences between high school and college? I know not everyone is fresh out of high school, but just kind of just expectation-wise, you want to be able to identify that there are some big differences. You are responsible for your own learning, and many of you will be taking classes from people who during the day they're in their field, and then at night or maybe on every other day they're teaching, and so they have real life experience, which is really valuable. So why is it important to go to class? Hopefully you know already, but there's like a lot of research that says, going to class is obviously going to help you succeed, and that if you're not there, you're going to end up with lower grades. Even if you're in a large class, it's obvious when you're not there. So you want to make sure that you're attending class. And what do you do if you miss a class? Again, some of this might seem like common sense, but I've been teaching at the college level now for 11 years, and believe me, it's not. So make sure that you touch base with your instructor, try to get notes from a fellow classmate, look online, check the syllabus, so just kind of do what you can do to stay up and engaged, even if you have to miss a class for a reason. Participating in class, again, like I mentioned, I've been teaching for a long time, so I know participation looks different for everyone. It's not always like raising your hand and talking throughout the entire class. It could also be just showing that you care, that you're there, you're making eye contact, you're sitting forward, you're taking notes, you are maybe answering questions every once in a while, or after class you're emailing or visiting office hours. So there's lots of ways participation can come, in different forms. And then again, this goes over asking questions. I always encourage my students to ask a lot of questions because odds are if you have a question, so does a couple other people in the room. So making sure that you ask questions. And then communicating with instructors, make sure that you are being professional in your, written communication. Make sure that you're professional when speaking to an instructor. So kind of some tips on that. If you have anxiety about, your classes, which is normal, anytime I start a new class, I'm very anxious, even though I'm on the other end of it all the time. As a student, I do get kind of anxious when I start a class. So make sure that you are, dealing with that anxiety. And then especially as you have a class where you have to present, sometimes that comes into play even more. So that'll talk about some anxieties related to that. And then this goes into even more depth about, presentations and how to make sure that you're prepared. So chapter 7. Again, I would recommend kind of looking and seeing what is the section maybe you need to pay most attention to. My mouse does not want to cooperate with me right now, apparently. All right, so for many of you, it might be that public speaking section. That might be the part that really resonates with you, that maybe you struggle with. So what is public speaking? And some of you may never have to do like a formal presentation, but you still may have to talk to like maybe a couple clients, patients, whatever it might be. And so there is still components of public speaking in many fields. So how to overcome some of that anxiety, and then some presentation guidelines, especially if you're doing something with like a more formal presentation, maybe you're using visual aids. Yeah. So there's a lot of guidance there. Okay, and then chapter 8, we don't have like a specific PowerPoint for that in here, so if you'll go just straight to the chapter, this is the Writing Center kind of information, writing for classes. So how can you become a better writer? Hopefully you are already familiar with our Writing Center. If not, I'm going to show you on our home page under Info for Current Students. Down here, there's a link to our Writing Center. There's some information, and right now Most of you might be more comfortable doing the online writing center, but that's available all the time. I'll also show you, I'm timed out here. In My Circ State, under academic support, we also have a writing center link here, and this takes you to, I think, even a more detailed page here. So it can talk about, like, there's a little video about the Writing Center, and then here are some other resources. So check that out also if the writing process, or you're taking a class that involves some writing. So our text for Chapter 8 does talk about the writing process, how can you become a better writer? And so it's going to walk you through kind of that writing process and some tips involved with that. Okay, so that's an overview. Like I said, as always, please make sure you spend some more time on your own with those materials. So we're going to go ahead and click into the assignment area. As I mentioned, each of these assignments will deal with a different facet of the assignments from this week. All right, so Chapter 8. Chapter 8 was the writing. So here we go. Chapter 8 discussion forum. This is going to be due your original post by Wednesday for your week 4 attendance, and then you're going to respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. I am noticing some people forgetting to go back and respond to classmates. So you want to make sure that you do that, because even though if you get your attendance points, you post by Wednesday, if you don't respond to 2 classmates, you're still only going to get half credit for the discussion forum itself. So you want to make sure you get all the points you can. So this will look familiar because you've done discussion posts just like this one. So you have 4 topics. You're going to write on all 4 topics. You can see it says answer all topics and complete each of the 2 sentences. So talk to me about your worst writing habits have been, how can you overcome them, your sentence level mechanics, how can you fix them, the writing process in general, what do you need to do, and then how, like, seeking help, you're most likely to need help in what area of writing, and where could you go. So make sure that you respond to each of those 4 prompts, and you'll see that there's 2 in each. Post that by Wednesday for full attendance credit, and then respond to 2 classmates by Sunday. And then we're going to scroll down to the Chapter 5 assignment. Chapter 5 you're going to see rings a lot like Chapter 4 assignment you've already previously done. So I'm going to open up Chapter 5. So this should look kind of familiar because you did the same type of deal with the Chapter 4. I think it was in week 2. So you're going to, again, this is talking about, in this case, the reading process, since Chapter 5 dealt with college level reading. So look at each of these components of reading, and what are you going to do to try to improve? I'd like to say that, as a college student, you probably maybe feel confident in one of these areas, but just kind of think, how could you improve? What 2 things can you do to improve your reading comprehension? What 2 things can you do to improve your reading speed? And by that, I mean sometimes students either feel like they read too quickly or too slowly. So you can kind of look at it either way. And then vocabulary. So what are things you need to do in each of those areas? When do you expect to take that action? And how do you know that action is accomplished? Maybe it's a grade on an assessment, maybe it's your just general understanding of vocabulary, whatever it might be. So that's Chapter 5. And you are going to submit that in the Chapter 5 Dropbox area. And then the last thing here is the Online Learning Write for You assignment. So this is actually kind of 2 parts in one. First, you have to complete the survey, and it's hyperlinked there. Take this short survey. So you'll click on that. Here's the survey. So you'll go through and just kind of click the response. You'll hit submit. You'll get your score. After you get your score, now I can't see the survey because it's on the Circ State homepage. It's not directly connected to Blackboard. I cannot see that you completed that survey. So that in itself is not the assignment fully. You need to go back, keeping your score in mind. It says, after you take the survey, submit your score and feedback under Write Submission and comment whether you believe online learning is right for you and why. So that's what you'll click in there, and you can just click Write Assignment and just tell me my score was a whatever. I agree or disagree because. So you're going to tell me about your score, and basically the score is going to tell you whether online learning is a good fit for you or not. And so that's what you're telling me. Like, yes, I think online learning is a good fit because, or no, you know what, I don't think the score was right. I really don't like online learning. Whatever. again, just report your score and if you agree or disagree, and that is the online learning survey. So as a quick recap, week 4, make sure you post your original response to the Chapter 8 discussion forum by Wednesday for week 4 attendance, responded to classmates by Sunday, and then make sure you complete both of these, Chapter 5 assignment and the online learning for you survey and response by Sunday as well. All right, once you're done with this week, you're done halfway through the course. Have a great week. Bye.